Autumn 1999. A wave of bloody explosions swept through Russian cities. On the 4th of September, in Bunaksk, in Dagestan, 62 people died in the rubble of a tower block. On the night of the 9th of September, in Moscow, an 8-story apartment building in Guryanov Street was blown to bits. A toll of 94 dead and 164 wounded. At dawn on the 13th of September in the capital city again, a powerful explosion totally destroyed a 7-story building on the Kashira Road. 119 bodies were pulled from the rubble. They included 12 children. 3 days later, in Volgodonsk in southern Russia, 17 people died in another explosion. Russia had never before been subjected to such acts of terrorism. Mass psychosis quickly set in. All offices and non-residential premises, cellars and basements were thoroughly checked. Civilians volunteered to patrol courtyards, stairways and landings. A multitude of checkpoints paralyzed road transport. Responsibility for the attacks has never been claimed, but from day one, the secret services put the blame squarely on the Chechens.
The people who organize these missions, who prepare the explosives, who deliver them, and have overall responsibility for everything that has happened are obviously in Chechnya. I can tell you with the utmost certainty, I can guarantee you that they come from the training camps of Khatab and Basayev.
After a 3-year truce in Chechnya, the war had now moved to the heart of Russia. With public anger running so high, the Prime Minister Vladimir Putin ordered a bombing campaign to bring the rebellious Chechens to heel.
Russian planes are only striking the terrorist bases. We will follow the terrorists wherever they go. If they are at the airport, we will be there. Excuse me, but if they're in the toilets, we will go in there and blow them away. That's all there is to it. The problem is solved.
When the first explosions took place in Moscow, then in Volgodonsk, the public was in a state of stupefaction and shock. This coincided with the appointment of Putin as Prime Minister. And I think that then about 90 to 95% of people, just like today in America, supported the action the president was taking to eliminate the Chechen bands. But what's interesting is that even now it hasn't been proved that the Chechens did it.
Okay, so the finger is pointing at a whole people, the Chechens. But show me who carried out the attacks, show me who planted the bombs. They can't do it.
The slow progress of the inquiries, the absence of proof, the sheer scale and professionalism of the bombings all cast doubt on Chechen involvement. Speculation as to the possible involvement of the Lubyanka, the secret services, began to emerge.
To judge from the consequences, and they say that in politics you should always look to see who benefits, then of course there are all sorts of different versions. But the public is still very interested in the role played by the special services in all of this.
After public demands for peace, the enraged Russian people turned against the Chechens and the war was renewed. There's little doubt that it was the toughened public opinion that put the young hardliner Vladimir Putin, the former head of the Secret Service, the FSB, into the Kremlin. To this day, the only terrorists detected in connection with the bombings were FSB agents. The first suspicions of special service involvement in the bombings came after 3 explosions had already claimed more than 300 lives. It was then, on the 22nd of September 1999, that a bomb attack was apparently averted in Ryazan. It was officially passed off as a civil defense exercise, using a mock-up device. But many Russians believed the bomb was real. To them, President Putin's rise to power is now seen in a very different light. Those involved in investigating the mysterious events in Ryazan include journalists from Novaya Gazeta, one of Moscow's last remaining independent publications. And since the FSB doesn't like it when people pry, the newspaper has had more than its fair share of problems.
We consider that, according to the law, according to the Russian penal code as it stands, the facts disclosed by our paper should lead to the opening of a criminal inquiry to establish if those facts are indeed well-founded. But instead of that, a slander suit has been brought against the paper.
In August 2001, Novaya Gazeta took a risk when it published extracts from a book by Yuri Felshtinsky and Alexander Litvinenko, The FSB Bombs Russia. The historian Yuri Felshtinsky was born in Moscow and since 1978 has lived and worked in the United States. He has written several books on the history of the USSR. An American citizen, he was the first foreigner to obtain a Russian doctorate in history.
We all know that information often comes out after failed operations. That's what's happened here. The FSB tried and failed to blow up a building in Ryazan. The details are clear enough now to make it a textbook case. We know everything. What car they came in, how many of them there were, when and how they planted the bomb. We even know what time it should have gone off. And it can hardly be a coincidence that these attacks stopped after the bungling of Ryazan. It would have been stupid to carry on with a flawed battle plan.
The NTV television channel, then still independent, took an interest in the Ryazan case. In March 2000, it broadcast an open debate with everyone involved in the affair in its show Independent Inquiry. Thanks to these images, which strangely enough have neither been seized nor destroyed, we can reconstruct what really happened in Ryazan. On the 22nd of September, at 9:10 in the evening, a suspicious scene was played out in front of an apartment building. Two men and a woman unloaded 3 large bags from the boot of a white car and carried them into a basement. A second suspicious point was that the number 62, indicating a Ryazan vehicle registration, was written on a piece of card and taped over the car's real number.
I drove straight past them, but I went back to look at the rear number plate too, and sure enough it was the same, a piece of paper with 62 on it, taped over the end of the registration number. It made me suspicious, so when I got home I called the police.
A patrol car arrived at the scene 1 hour later. The car had gone, but the police made an important discovery in the basement of the building. 3 large 50-kilo bags and a homemade detonator programmed for 5:30. The patrol chief was Andrei Chernyshev. Pavel Voloshin, a Novaya Gazeta journalist, met him soon afterwards.
He told me he was sure it was a serious situation. He'd seen the bags, a wire coming out of the bags, and there was a detonator. He was sure he had prevented an attack, and that, thanks to Kartofelnikov's phone call, hundreds of lives had been saved.
On the NTV program, the tenants of the building recounted the details of what they saw and went through that night.
When the police